Hey, it's time for another edition of the Cseekly Recap. I'm your host, Csomm, and I'm here to go a bit deeper into the topics that I already covered in my shorts. The footage behind is from the game Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. Let's get the show on the road. Skyrim lead thinks Starfield would be talked about like the second coming if a new studio made it, but expectations were so much higher with Bethesda. Basically, Skyrim's lead designer Bruce Nesmith believes Starfield would be more positively received if it were made by a different studio. He attributes the lukewarm reception to Bethesda's high expectations, stating that while Starfield is a good game, it didn't meet the unrealistic expectations set for it. I don't know what this guy is smoking, but I definitely want whatever he is having. And you know what's the funny part? He said that he played the game all the way to the bitter end, and he thought that's basically a win for Bethesda, even though he said that he had concerns. First of all, that's so dumb, saying that you played the game till the end and you had concerns, and therefore that's a win for Bethesda. I played the game 3 times. First time when it came out, and second time when they kinda released some kind of a patches to improve the game. By the way, spoiler alert, it didn't do nothing. It's the same game no matter what you do. Anyway, the second time I played it after the patches, and then the third time I did the new game plus in order to see whether or not stuff is going to change based on, Starborn and all that stuff. Nothing changed. It's even worse because given the fact that you know what you know in the story, you cannot influence it at all other than saying to your buddies in Constellation that some fuckery is going to happen and you can actually save all of them. And that's basically it. You cannot cut corners in the story, like skipping certain bits and pieces of it because you have this superior knowledge. No. It's a complete waste of time playing New Game Plus only for you to see the layout of the Constellation setup in terms of who is going to appear first time when you go through the door. And this is just me talking about the story issues, let alone the gameplay stuff. I mean, just take into account all the loading screens that you need to experience, and then gameplay loop, which is very, very simple, but it's still ruined by the size of the map, which again is non-existent because it's fragmented in so many bits and pieces that you don't have a unified experience like it was in Skyrim or Fallout, for example. I'm just mind-boggled by these people saying these kinds of things. The statement that if the other company made Starfield, it would be hailed as a second coming is so wrong. If another company made Starfield, that company would be dead in less than a month because nobody would play it. People are only giving benefit of the doubt towards Bethesda because, you have nice memories. Hell, even me playing Skyrim back in the day, I still look at that game from a nostalgia point of view, even though I know there are issues in it. So, this is not going to be a thing. It's only Bethesda because people are giving them slack. Bruce Nesmith, again, whatever you're smoking, I want some of it as well. God of War 6 setting unites gamers, and I can see why. That's basically the title of this article, but what it actually means is that God of War 6 is rumored to be set in Egypt following Kratos' adventures in the Norse realm. Fans speculate the game will involve a conflict with the Roman pantheon or explore Kratos' past between the original and Norse saga. While the game is not officially announced, a spin-off or prequel is rumored to be released later this year. As far as I'm concerned, more God of War is always good, but this particular Egyptian setting is interesting to say the least. I would definitely like to roam Egypt, explore pyramids, interact with their gods and all that stuff, so to me it's awesome. I don't see how this would fail in terms of setting. Obviously story is a completely different thing. And as far as we're talking about Roman pantheon, I don't know how would that work because Roman pantheon is essentially Greek pantheon but different names, and since Kratos killed all of the Greek gods, effectively as far as I'm concerned, he killed the Roman pantheon. You might sell it as some kind of a alternate reality where they kind of exist at the same time with the Greek pantheon, but I don't know. As far as I can tell, the Egyptian gods are the way to go, or at least that's what I would see as a good approach. But yeah, more Kratos adventure as far as I'm concerned with him and the boy. Bring it on. Ubisoft employee who was suspended from criticizing the company has now been fired. Again, some Ubisoft drama, you can never get tired of it. The article pretty much states that the Ubisoft employee was suspended for criticizing the company's return to office policy and executive decisions has been terminated. His comments shared on Ubisoft's internal channel criticize the company's policy and executive decisions. I mean, at this point, I'm not even surprised that this is happening in Ubisoft. Fact being, this thing was brewing for so long, and yeah, it's kinda coming full circle, so to speak. Ubisoft is a company that made such a bad decisions in the past years, especially with the latest Assassin's Creed Shadows game. I mean, I played all Ubisoft games from the start in terms of Assassin's Creed franchise. I haven't missed a single one, but Shadows is definitely not something that I'm willing to give my money, because that whole philosophy of theirs with pushing certain agendas, that's not flying with me. I wanted a proper Japanese-styled samurai Assassin's Creed game, and I got something completely different. And as soon as I saw the announcement trailer, I was like, yeah, I'm not playing that. And as far as other decisions that they made are concerned, that Star Wars game, again, when I saw the trailer, I immediately said, I'm not gonna play it. And then I saw a bit of a gameplay and how bad it looks. In a sense, how badly it plays. Yeah, why would I give my hard-earned money for that when I can buy some other stuff? Far superior games compared to what they are doing for less money. And as far as working from home policy is concerned, I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, if you can perform your job from home on the same level as you were doing in the office and even better in certain situations, then I don't see a reason why you would have to go back to the office unless some type of a, I don't know, power tripping manager wants to have everything under control and feel superior to you just because he orders you to come back and sit behind your desk and do stuff. But that's just me. So yeah, Ubisoft and their shenanigans, it seems it's a spring that never goes dry, particularly when we are talking about all the stupid shit that they were doing. Obsidian has no plans to make The Outer Worlds 3, likely due to poor sales. So Obsidian has no plans for The Outer Worlds 3 due to disappointing sales of The Outer Worlds 2. The company will continue developing games in the Avowed universe, despite it being a miss, and it's working on a DLC for The Outer Worlds 2 and Grounded 2. This one for me is actually a very sad story of what happens when you're not listening what your user base wants to play and you go in completely different directions, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, we're not selling stuff like we expected to. You could attribute this to, for example, setting a bar too high in terms of how much revenue are you expecting, but this is something completely else. I am a big fan of Obsidian Entertainment ever since they made Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, and then obviously Fallout New Vegas, but particularly with South Park stuff and Pillars of Eternity. However, things changed, especially with the release of The Outer Worlds 2 and with the release of The Avowed. I played The Outer Worlds 2, and you can check my review up there somewhere, and in comparison with the first game, it's actually quite weird to me that they sort of downgraded themselves. So basically, Outer Worlds 2 is worse than The Outer Worlds 1 for some strange reason. Obviously not strange reason, but for decisions they made in order to make the game as it is. And then we have the Avowed stuff, which is very strange too. It was supposed to be something like Skyrim, but in that particular universe. And I never played it properly because I saw the comments and all that stuff, how bad it is. But I picked it up recently just to, figure stuff out on my own. Because, people do stuff and say stuff the way that they say stuff and do stuff. And I don't have my own opinion based on how I play the game, so I wanted to mend that. And for what I can see, especially in the first couple of hours, they were right. The game is very, very below average, just like Outer Worlds 2 was. And I don't know what the hell is happening with that game. I am puzzled by their decisions to go that route, even though it's very clearly obvious what people want to play. Now, Grounded is a bit different because it's completely new what they were doing, and they really did a good job with the first one. The second one is still in early access, and I'm not playing early access games because that's kind of my policy. But If you can do a sequel like Grounded 2 properly, but you fail on the other games that I already mentioned, then I don't know. Maybe they have separate teams for these separate games, but it's even worse when you think about it because those two games were being developed like 4 or 5 years or something like that, so it makes you wonder what the hell is going on with Obsidian Entertainment. Hopefully they can bounce, because it's a shame for these franchises to die, since in my opinion the lore and the universes they are setting are really cool. But if they don't do something fast about it, there ain't gonna be Obsidian anymore. This next one is all about Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk dev explains why a game works so well in first person. And the summary of the article is all about how the creative director explains that the first person perspective was chosen for the game because it aligns well with the story, genre, and the world. First person enhances the narrative of character trapped in a deteriorating body, interacting with the digital ghost. And I tend to agree with this because that particular juxtaposition you have between V and Johnny is amazing. I wouldn't be mad if the game was in third person, but I would definitely play it in first person if I had the choice to do so. In fact, most of the games that are kinda set up like that, I always choose first person, even though back in the day I was mostly pushing third person. But then I played Skyrim, and for my second playthrough I decided to be like, okay, let's switch to the first person, and my mind was blown away. So yeah, for the next game I also expect it to be in first person, but if they are willing to make, switcheroo, like you can do first person and the third person perspective and then you choose, I mean, people will be happy, but I will still be playing it in first person, because at the end of the day, the immersion you're getting, interacting with characters, being there close and personal, it's what makes Cyberpunk really great. Let's see what happens for the second game, and hopefully, like I said, you will be able to choose between the two, so everybody's going to be happy. We already had a Ubisoft news, but again, Ubisoft just keeps on giving. So in this one, Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot should resign, union rep says. So two Ubisoft union representatives are calling for the CEO of Ubisoft to resign following layoffs, project cancellations, and studio restructuring. They cite a lack of trust in his leadership and the company's management. I don't know where these people were a couple of years ago, but he should have been fired ages ago, especially with their questionable way of diversifying the workforce and all that stuff, and then extremely bad decisions in terms of which games they should cover and how are they going to structure the next games that they're working on. I think it's too little too late as far as I'm concerned, and there's no saving that company no matter what you do. The best course of action would be to just sell their IPs to someone else, because this is not the same Ubisoft we knew back then when Assassin's Creed 2 was produced, or all the other great hits like Assassin's Creed 4, for example. Someone else should pick up their IPs or buy them and make the games much better, because as far as I can see, I don't think we are getting anything good from Ubisoft anytime soon. So let it just die and utilize whatever resources are left from that corpse to something better. Obviously, I feel bad for the employees who are there, at least the ones who know what they're doing, not the new ones who came just because, a certain checkbox was ticked, and try to move on, because Ubisoft is dead and nothing can save it anymore. Right, on to some nicer topics, like this one. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 players have already killed more NPCs than there were people on Earth in the real 15th century. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 players have killed collectively 452.8 million NPCs in the game's first year, surpassing the estimated 15th century world population. Players have also traveled 667 miles, brewed almost 70 million potions, and performed 1.6 billion perfect blocks. As you have probably noticed, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is 1 year old, and Warhorse was kind enough to share these data points with us to see what's going on with the game. And to be quite honest, I'm very pleased with the numbers and they look amazing. And I'm also heavily contributing to this one because I am right now playing my 4th run on hardcore. So I'll probably add up a bit more to these numbers, especially when it comes to potions brewed, because I love that system, it's amazing. It has its shortcomings, but still, it works great. And I wish Warhorse all the best, particularly whatever is going to happen with their upcoming RPG. that reportedly is in development. Naturally, I would like to play more as Henry and I would like to play more in this setting, but who knows? As far as I'm concerned, as long as they make a proper game, which at this point I don't have any doubts, everything is gonna be okay. Good job, Warhorse, keep going. Speaking of new games, this article is quite interesting. Crimson Desert's second features overview video unveils combat depth and progression ahead of March launch. Pearl Abyss released the second features overview video showcasing the game's combat mechanics and character progression. The combat system emphasizes fluidity, player's choice, and mobility with a variety of weapons, skill chaining, and elemental enhancements. Character progression revolves around the artifact system, allowing players to customize Cliff's abilities and equipment through exploration, quests, and boss battles. It's always nice to see gameplay trailers, so to speak, or in this sense, overview video, because it gives you a rough idea what the game is going to be like. Obviously, when it comes to combat depth and progression in terms of Crimson Desert, it's not that simple because as far as I'm concerned, I need to play the game in order to see how combat feels to me. From what I can see from the video, it feels like animation style combat, where everybody has that animation thing and they kind of clash together, and then depending what you do, or rather how you break the animation, you can do stuff. Basically, it's same like in The Witcher 3, and that particular combat style I liked. So let's say I'm cautiously optimistic about how I will react to the combat in Crimson Desert. It looks okay, it looks flashy, but I still need more info in order to make a proper evaluation whether or not combat is actually good or bad, particularly in this type of game because combat is going to be 60-70% of everything you do. So naturally, if I'm interacting with the system almost non-stop, I want it to be nice and comfortable. So I guess at the end, I would just say that we need to wait for the game to come out, play it, and then produce an opinion whether or not it agreed with what we initially expected versus what the reality is. Because it's basically how things work and there is no other way of, giving a proper opinion about the matter. Speaking about giving opinions, this next article will probably generate a lot of it. Diablo 4 next class looks to have leaked and it's the opposite of Paladin. A data mined leak suggests the second playable class in Diablo's 4 Lord of Hatred expansion will be a Warlock, a dark spellcaster class. This leak includes artwork of the Warlock wielding a sword and red magic. Blizzard is expected to officially reveal the Warlock and other details about the expansion during the Diablo 30th anniversary spotlight on February 11th. We all knew that we are going to have two classes in the next expansion, one of them being Paladin because you could pre-purchase the damn thing, but the second one was a bit of a mystery. Now, I would be so bold to say that I really don't give a shit what the next class is going to be, because we already know it's going to be overpowered. That's what happened with every single class that was released in Diablo 4, because it generates money. People are not going to play a new class if it's boring, or if it cannot hit 1 billion trillion damage numbers. That's bad for business. I'm a bit boring in that sense, and I'm mostly interested in what's going to happen with the game as a whole, how it is going to play. I know we are getting loot filter, so that's going to help a lot, but again, it's the core gameplay loop that I want to see. Not to mention, I'm against these overpowered classes on launch as is because you can just steamroll through the game, you are done in 3 days, and that's it. There is nothing else for you to do, particularly since Diablo 4 is structured like that, where the main ingredient to push you forward, which is some kind of a challenge, doesn't really exist in that game. However, I am open-minded as always, and I'm going to see what the game is going to bring with the new expansion, which is going to come in a month and a half, and then obviously make a review about it and say my piece. Let's hope that the game is finally going to get out of the beta when the new expansion hits, because this is just getting ridiculous. This next article is again about Bethesda, but with a twist. Todd Howard knows there's anxiety about Fallout 5, admits we do like to wait, but reassures fans we never stop developing Fallout. Bethesda is still developing Fallout with a full team working on the franchise. While the majority of the team is focused on The Elder Scrolls 6, other unannounced Fallout projects are also in progress. I wonder what that means, but okay. Fallout 5 will be announced when the time is right, with a focus on delivering a long-lasting role-playing experience. Our boy Todd finally came forward with some info about Fallout, and to be honest, if you know how Bethesda operates, this is something completely normal. I don't really have anxiety because I'm not like your usual fan. Dare I say, I wouldn't even consider myself being a fan in terms of fanatic about anything in life, to be honest. But the public needs a response, especially with Fallout 2 TV show being out and all that. Which, by the way, isn't that great as far as I'm concerned, but that's a topic for another discussion. Anyway, what I really want is a game that's not going to be buggy at the start, a game that has a decent story, a game that has a good gameplay mechanics, and not something that we already seen in Fallout 4. Will Bethesda be able to deliver these things? I don't really know. If you look what they have produced in the past, that being Fallout 76 and Starfield, I don't really have a lot of hopes for a good Fallout 5 game, to be honest with you. Fact being, I'm bracing for the worst, because if anything I have been noticing for the past 5-10 years when it comes to Bethesda is that they never really change, they just stick with their own stuff and that's about it. God forbid they change a UI, which has been dogshit for at least 5 years, and only thanks to the modding community we have mods to fix these things. So, to be quite blunt here, the only thing that you need to do is pretty much making a game where the modding community won't fix the jankiness of it, but only add new features like quests, for example, new armor, new weapons, and that kind of stuff. And not unofficial patches that fix bugs that you are not fixing from the get-go, or making a UI mod just so we can organize our stuff easily. So yeah, not a lot of hope for Bethesda next game, which is probably going to be The Elder Scrolls 6, and I don't think anybody else has a lot of tolerance for it anyway. Speaking about tolerating stuff, this one is all about Skyblivion. Fan-made Oblivion remake Skyblivion continues looking real pretty in new screenshots as devs admit we've been a bit quiet since our last update, which was a delay. They shared new screenshots of ruins showcasing its progress despite a recent delay. The developers assured fans that work is ongoing and more of the project is nearing completion. While no exact release date was provided, the team expressed their commitment to deliver a high-quality remake. See, I don't mind this dragging a lot because it's just a bunch of dudes making stuff, probably in their free time with no pay or anything. And as far as I'm concerned, I wish them all the best. I wish them to make it in a way that is satisfying to them, to their core vision, and ultimately, I'm pretty much waiting to try it out. Oblivion Remaster was okay, but I wanna try it from a Skyrim point of view, and this is precisely the best thing that can enable me to do so. So other than wishing them good luck and fair winds, so to speak, there is nothing really to talk about here, and if you're impatient, cut them some slack, guys, because they're trying their best. The final article for this particular recap is this one. Mass Effect veterans don't want side quests to feel tacked on to their new sci-fi RPG, and they can't add everything or the game would be thousands of hours. The developers of the upcoming sci-fi RPG Exodus, or Exodus, I don't know, whatever, aim to create compelling side quests that enhance the main story and player exploration, rather than feeling like obligation. The team is focused on balancing the inclusion of side content to avoid overwhelming players with excessive gameplay hours. See, I'm conflicted here when it comes to side quests. If the game is good and if it plays well, then I don't mind interacting with it more because I'm enjoying myself. But if the side quests are dogshit, then no matter how good the game is, it's not going to make it any better. In fact, it's just going to make it worse. Also, if the side quests are designed in such a way that you always need to pick that particular path in order to get more XP from it and more stuff from it, you're just not making it diverse, so to speak, because at the end of the day, everybody is going to go for more money, for more weapons, for more XP, whatever may be the case. In that sense, when you're doing side quests, you always need to get the same amount of experience no matter what path you choose, if we are talking about a branching side quest or something like that. If we are talking about just, your usual side quest, go there, shoot stuff, come back, don't make it like an MMO style quest where you need to kill 10 things or scan 15 things in order to complete it. That formula is so archaic, I don't know if anybody likes that anymore. It was bad back in the day, and now it's even worse, particularly when you take side quests into account from Witcher or Cyberpunk or any game that does it good. I don't know what they will do in that sense, but I'm more worried about how the game is going to play in terms of, for example, combat. And what I can see from their previews and stuff, it really looks like Mass Effect 2.0 or whatever. Especially because it's the people from the Mass Effect dev team that are making it, so it makes kinda sense. And then let's not forget about the story, and then the characters and all other things, so I reckon side quests are not that important as the other factors, because at the end of the day, like I said, if the game feels good, you don't mind spending a lot of time in it. I never understood why Cyberpunk was that short, for example, and then when I heard that people actually complained that The Witcher 3 was long, I think I wanted to smack someone in the face, a random stranger. I didn't really care, because if you're complaining that a good game is too long for you, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. Nobody is forcing you to do side quests. You can easily complete the main quest and be done with it. You will still get the same experience, but for us who want to roam the world, who want to explore stuff, let us do our thing. Let us enjoy the game as much as we can. Because remember, kids, when something is good, you can never get tired of it. And that's basically it when it comes to the news that I have covered this week. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I encourage you to leave comments. I read all of your comments, and I'm very happy to interact there with you guys. If you enjoy this content or any type of content that I make, consider liking this and subscribing to channel for more discussions like this. That's it from me, until the next one.